Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss. And Meatball is somewhere around here. She's probably outside having fun, so I don't know if we'll see her today or not, but you never know. Wow, what a crazy few days it has been in this hobby. To give you some idea of just how enormous the outrage over what Wizards of the Coast did with their OGL 1.1 leak. I typically get between maybe, like on the first 24 hours, I release a video. I typically get maybe as little as 1,000 to as much as maybe 3,000, 3,500. That's a really successful 24-hour initial period for a video of mine. And this video, this last one that I just did, right, the one that is a warning to Hasbro investors, it got over 18,000 views in the first 24 hours. It's now almost at 25,000. So it was like, it's an enormous difference. It's literally orders of magnitude more views than I typically get. So this is not because that video is so much better than my other videos. So all my videos are basically very similar in quality and everything else. It wasn't because I'm sure that most of those people weren't actual Hasbro investors, though there were some people that talked to me in the comments, people that talked to me in private that saw the video. Some people I know, some people I didn't know until now. Lots of interesting things. I'm going to get more into that in a second in terms of some of the things they said. But it was just that people are so furious, right, at how Wizards has tried to eliminate the 20-year-old open gaming license and to set up a new license that forces content creators to essentially give away their intellectual property to Wizards of the Coast and pay them for the favor of doing that, right? So it's crazy. But here's the thing. A lot has also happened in between since then until now, and one of them is that Wizards of the Coast has, in probably the worst way possible, the most disingenuous way possible, the most slimy, snake-like way possible, have dialed back. And the way that they did this is that on Twitter, I don't know if on other social media, but we know that not in their main website, they haven't put this anywhere there, or at least they hadn't as of the last time I checked, which was, I guess, last night, to be fair. But anyways, they haven't put anything like that. They said, first of all, we were planning to change the OGL to fight bigotry and discrimination, right? Of people that are creating hateful content, which is first things first. They had to invoke wokeness, right? To demand that anybody who's woke has to support them while they're being complete douchebags, right? And at the same time, so that they could create this kind of religious fervor of making people think, oh, well, and then we have to let them do whatever they want, right? This is the reality of what most actual corporate bigwigs act. I know that there's tons of people in Wizards and in all these other companies in Marvel and Disney that are dyed-in-the-wool, Maoist, Stalinist, true believers in wokeness that want to see our civilization burned to the ground and everything else, right? But people like Cynthia Williams aren't, right? Those people are basically just corporate raiders, completely self-serving globalists who don't really believe in wokeness at all, but they certainly believe in using wokeness as a weapon to get what they want. In the same way that the postmodernist, communist insurgent that wants to tear our civilization to the ground does, right? They don't believe in it either. Nobody believes in it. It's just a weapon, right? And they tried to use it as a weapon first and foremost in their tweet. And then they go on to say that some people have incorrectly said that we had created the 1.1 OGL and that this was going to be going live. That was just a draft. We know that's a complete lie. We know that because they sent the 1.1 OGL along with a lawyer's letter to different companies like Kickstarter and told them, you have to sign this or you're done, right? And Kickstarter had to negotiate. Kickstarter negotiated with them. They said, well, we'd like to get a better deal. And we said, okay, we're listening. And they said, well, how about 15% instead of 25. He said, no, we could give you 20. They go, okay. And then they agreed to that. All of those things happened But now Wizards is pretending, no, we never plan to use the 1.1, right? Well, they did, obviously, right? So they went and then said, we never planned to use that. We did, however, want to create this new OGL because we don't want evil corporations taking over D&D. With the current open OGL, there are, giant corporations that are going to try to take advantage of Dungeons and Dragons. That's you. Hasbro is the largest toy corporation in the world, and you're the ones doing it. You're the ones that are taking advantage, and you just want to increase your advantage. Without realizing it, you're going to destroy your advantage. In fact, you already have, and you're probably starting to realize it right now, Hasbro. You've just ruined your advantage in Dungeons and Dragons. And so they said a bunch of cutesy-poo things like, we rolled a 1. What? So we made a big mistake, but it wasn't our fault. And we never meant to put that out there, right? And then they're promising that there aren't going to be any royalties. They aren't going to take anybody's intellectual property. That was never the plan. They never would have dreamed of stealing your work, even though they constantly dream of stealing people's work. This is completely normal. In fact, their whole business is based on stealing other people's ideas because they'll hire people as freelancers or whatever. Those people will give away that intellectual property to Wizards, and then Wizards will own it, right? They just want to be able to do that to everybody who's in the D&D hobby. And that's a very, very typical ambition for somebody like them, right? Like this corporate entity, I mean. But they just knew that they weren't going to get away with it this time. So they said that. They said, we're not going to, we're changing the OGL 2.0 that we're going to come out with, that you're going to see. It's wonderful. It doesn't charge you a royalty. It doesn't let us take away your intellectual property on a whim. But then they do say, but the OGL 1.0 is going to be invalid as of right now, and nobody else can use it again. We're going to give you people like a few months leeway in case you have some projects or whatever. But then after that, you just can't use OGL 1.0 because we've decided that this thing from 20 years that Wizards itself multiple times said cannot be removed, that they can just arbitrarily remove it. So that's the crux of the matter. And that's the only thing that matters. And you might be thinking, well, sure, if you're a game designer, that matters. It matters to you, pundit. Well, no, it really doesn't matter to me because my products don't need an OGL. There's nothing in them that they could claim is a violation of their source property, right? I mean, it's my lucky decisions that because I make, medieval authentic type games, there are no monsters that are, there's no rust monster in Sword and Caravan or Lion and Dragon, right? There's no Bullet, there's no Mind Flayer, because all the monsters in my books are based on actual myth and legend, right? And I don't use the Vancian magic system. So there's not only is there no, Melf's Acid Arrow or Dromage's Instant Summons, there also isn't any Acid Arrow or Instant Summons without the proprietary name, right? There's none of that because all of my games I don't use the Vancian system. So, I've got no real skin in that game personally, right? But what I'm going to say is that even if someone does, that's not the reason to say, well, if you don't restore the OGL 1.0 and make it clear that it is it is permanent, that they cannot be revoked, is irrevocable. If you don't do that, everything else doesn't matter. It's very simple. Right now, they're coming over there and say, we're sorry, we rolled a 1. No, we're not going to charge you any kind of fees. We're not going to steal your intellectual property. Our deal will not have anything like that, right? But if they decide that they can take away the OGL 1.0, then they can decide they can take away the OGL 2.0. So you're going to be making these products after they promise that no, they're not going to charge you royalties, and no, they're not going to be able to just take your intellectual property without any compensation to you. But then they can say, well, you know what, we're going to do now the 2.1. In the 2.1, we own all of your property. We get to instantly ban you for being a bigot. You'll earn nothing, but you'll also owe us money, back pay for all the sales you've made already. We can do all of that, and the previous OGL is now invalid, so you're screwed. And they can do it, right? Because I mean, not exactly that. There's a couple of things I said there that they couldn't do, but they could very easily, in a year, decide, you know what? Sorry, we really do have to charge everybody who makes books under OGL 2.0. We've decided we're going to go ahead with that, right? And they could just do it, and it's right back to square one, right? Because the problem is, as long as they want to claim that an open license isn't actually open in the sense of being permanent, of being something that everybody can use and that nobody can touch, then they're actually just selling you a bill of goods. So without that, every other promise they make is a goddamn lie. It's absolutely baseless. It means nothing, and you know this because they're lying even in the thing they're telling you about it. At the very start, they go, "Oh, we never meant to do 1.0." Well, you know that's a lie. They've said, what they've said is a lie in there, right? So they're going to lie to you again, right? Hasbro are liars, and they're going to keep lying. Okay, so you want to be very careful about that. Now, I think most people, from what I've seen, almost nobody's been convinced by this ridiculous farce of excuse making that Wizards of the Coast engaged in. However, what I have seen a lot of people instantly be convinced by and have been saying, this is, oh, we've done it, we've won, it's victory, we've saved gaming now, we've saved D&D, or we've saved the OSR, or whatever else, is that at around the same time that were just shortly before Wizards made this announcement, they probably had made that announcement very rushed, including making up all those blatant lies. They made that announcement probably in reaction to Paizo making an announcement that they are creating a new OpenRPG license in conjunction with several other companies. I believe it's Goblinoid Games, maybe? I don't know. There's Chaosium for sure, Green Ronin, I think Modifius, I don't know, maybe. Anyways, a whole bunch of these companies, pretty much Seattle companies, because that's where they all are getting together, and they're going to have the OpenRPG license, a completely open, irrevocable license that will be protected by a law firm and a foundation and all this stuff. And so nobody will ever be able to take it away. And anything you were doing before, you will now be able to do it under that license, and it'll be safe to design. And so everybody on the internet went, oh, yay, look at that, Paizo saved gaming, and all this stuff, right? And I mean, if it's what it looks like on the surface, sure, it's good. But the problem is, I don't believe that. I'm having trouble being convinced yet. We haven't seen, they said they're not even going to have a draft of this open license, which they're calling the ORC, which is also a bit of a red flag, given the politics of the ORC, if you don't mind my pointing out here, right? And they really wanted to call it ORC because they totally stretched the acronym, right? Because it's something like Open Role-Playing Game Design Contract or something like that. But they've just shortened that to ORC, ORC, right? And I mean, that is now for stupid reasons having to do with stupid leftists. It is now the orc is now a political symbol because leftists believe orcs are black people, and everybody normal believes that they're not. But because leftists believe orcs are black people, then they believe that orcs have to actually be good and heroic and noble, and they cannot possibly be evil or dumb, right? Because if you're saying that, then you're saying that black people are evil and dumb, and I guess leftists. The question becomes, why did leftists think orcs are black people to begin with? What does that tell you about what they think about black people if what they think about orcs is that orcs are evil and dumb, right? Like this is a very messed up scenario that they have presented for themselves and are then trying to impose on everybody else, trying to convince everyone that essentially black people are orcs, but that orcs are actually nice and that we have to protect them and we have to help them, the poor helpless orcs, right? Which is everything about that is wrong, right? And so the fact that they go ahead and name it orc kind of makes me dubious. It's a bit like everybody's kind of giving away the game here, right? Because Wizards of the Coast gets their new edition and their new OGL and everything. What do they call it? OneDnD, right? So there's the totalitarianism. They're literally, their hero is Sauron, apparently, right? Just OneDnD to rule all, right? We'll have complete and total control, right? That's what they wanted. And then you have these guys, all these aging Seattle hipsters from Paizo and Chaosium and Green Ronin, hi Nicole. They're all going to go ahead with Orc because it's like, I think in their minds they think they're saying BLM when they call it the Orc, right? And so this is the problem is they've been very happy to talk all about OpenRPG and the Orc on Twitter, and I'm guessing other social media. I spend most of my time on Twitter, as you might have guessed. But they're talking all about all the details about how they're going to do it, who they're collaborating with, what they're going to set up. They're going to make this foundation. They're going to make all these safeguards to make sure nobody can ever take it away. And that's all wonderful. But in almost every thread, there have been multiple people who have been asking the Paizo account, or the guy, I forget the name of the guy who's the boss of Paizo, or another group that's involved with this, which is the Paizo Union of Game Designers, right? They're unionized. So, okay, you wanted the clue that these people are, part of the radical, if not the Chaz type, they're at the very least the Bernie Sanders type of leftists, right? And they're all there in Seattle again. They actually have a unionized shop in Paizo of game designers, right? Of freelance typewriter monkeys, which is what anybody who's a professional game designer always wants to imagine. Professional in the sense that they work for a big company. They want to imagine that they're the intellectual geniuses of the game design world, and they never are, right? These are people that are always D-grade designers, because otherwise they wouldn't be working for the same amount of pay that a waitress in Seattle gets, typing away stupid generic adventure paths for pennies, But now they also get to feel all proud about being unionized, it's a miracle that Paizo is still even here in order to declare the Orc, because between all of the dumb things that they've done and the fact that they've now got a unionized shop, you'd think they'd be out of business. It's really good that they're preparing to give away this open gaming license, if the license is any good, to a separate institution, because their institution isn't going to be around by the next edition. Anyway, the point is, people are asking them in every thread variations of the question of, will there be a gatekeeping censorship clause, right? Is there going to be institutionalized leftism in this OGL that you're making? Is there going to be a morality condition? Will there be a censorship board? And they've refused to answer. So I guess they've never answered that question, and people keep asking, and the fact that they keep asking makes it more and more notable that they are refusing to answer. So it's very clear that all of these extremely far leftist companies, full of people that despise you as a normal gamer, right? Because when you think of Chaosium, Paizo, Pathfinder, great, right? Chaosium, Call of Cthulhu, Green Ronin, Mutants and Masterminds, right? Even though Green Ronin were leftist before anybody else was. Hi, Nicole. The swine were thick there. But actually nowadays, you've got to think of Pathfinder 2e and all of its woke. I mean, it was super woke before D&D ever became super woke. They've had all kinds of ridiculous alterations to the game and the setting on account of wokeness there. Chaosium used to be the badass Call of Cthulhu company, and now they make gaming products where the important thing is highlighting the stories of BIPOC communities and LGBT people in 1920s, in 1920s wherever, right? In the 1920s New York or San Francisco or Berlin or whatever. Doesn't matter where. The important thing is the book has to be full of BIPOC and LGBT people. It has to be full of that representation. And if you can make it so that actually, the universe is not one where the real villain is Cthulhu, but actually the villain is white people. Like that Lovecraft County show, right? Where at the end it turns out the white people are the real super monsters, right? Then go for that. So every book that they're making is basically just massive virtue signaling of woke Stalinism. right? So these are the people that you're going to trust. Just take them at their word blindly. Yeah, we're done. It's fixed. They fixed gaming now. We've got an open gaming license. Until that gaming license is in front of you and you can look at it with your own eyes and there isn't a poison pill in there, assume that there is. Assume that these people are going to betray you just as badly as Wizards of the Coast betrayed you. Because if they refuse to show it and refuse to even make a statement about it, then that tells me that these people don't actually care about gaming. They care about control, same as Wizards. If they have the free OGL available there, but they get to be in charge of the censorship board to decide who's going to be allowed to be on it, and then will be able to threaten you with kicking you off it, right? Getting you out of that OGL and into the wastelands of, what? Nothing, right? Because nobody needs these things anyways. Unless you're being an idiot, unless you're engaging in some kind of literal copy pasting of Pathfinder or of D&D, you don't need it. Like, Invisible College has no gaming license. It doesn't need it. It's an RPG of its own making, full of stuff that is part of the common RPG culture that has no intellectual right to belong to any particular company, except me, maybe, and the company that published it, because that's our game. So, there isn't anything there that needs a gaming license. And that's the ideal situation. But the point is, these guys want to be able to create a culture of fear where they're going to be able to essentially kick people off of this OGL if they don't obey. I mean, that's the case until they tell me otherwise. I assume that's the case because I know all these people. These are all people who would happily have sent a huge population, or would still happily send a huge percentage of the American population into some kind of rehabilitation camps, into gulags. During the COVID crisis, they would have sent them all into internments or things like that. These are people that have an absolutely monolithic way of thinking, and any deviation from it means that you are one of the greatest terrorist threat to humanity, and therefore must be stopped at any cost. So you're trusting these guys to create a free speech open gaming license where people will actually be free to make the products that they want. And that's the point. Any gaming license that has a morality police of any kind, whether it's wokist or, fundamentalist Christian, is not an open gaming license. It's a controlled gaming license. It's a gaming license that is inherently a gatekeeping mechanism and not something that frees designers to be able to design without having to meet the approval of a third party, which is the whole point. So as far as I'm concerned, Paizo, you're lying to me, because I've asked you and other people, I've seen dozens and dozens of people asking you, will this be a real open gaming license or will it have a morality clause? And you refuse to answer. So I'm gonna keep warning people about how dangerous you are until you do. How about that? All right. I guess that's everything for today. Just remember, you don't need an OGL. But you do need something to play with, and do not play with Dungeons and Dragons. I had mentioned about these investors, and one of the things that was made very clear to me right after I did that video is that if you really want, because you can say, I saw lots of people in the comments saying, "Oh, I'm never going to buy another 5th edition product," right? And that might mean something if you were actually going to buy one and then you don't months down the road. But it's not going to have an immediate effect. If you want to really have an impact where it sends panic waves all across the institution of Wizards and Hasbro and gets the top people at Hasbro looking and going, what the hell is going on there? We got to do something right away, which is exactly what you want happening. What you have to do is if you're on D&D Beyond, you have to unsubscribe from, you have to end your membership in D&D Beyond, okay? And tons of people have done that, so much that the guys have now apparently modified the code to make it really hard for you to unsubscribe. They're claiming, first they claimed that the site had crashed, and then they're saying that they've removed the button basically that lets you unsubscribe. So they're trying to get it into some shenanigans that I don't know how that's legal. How if they persist with that for very long and they literally aren't letting you stop paying them for something you don't want to pay them for anymore. I'm guessing there could be a court case there or something. I don't know. But the point is, stick to it. keep trying. If you haven't unsubscribed already, if you're on D&D Beyond, unsubscribe. If you're in Magic the Gathering Arena, quit. Right? Get out of whatever the things are, the virtual things, because that's what they want. They love that. That was the whole reason they hired Cynthia Williams. So if it turns out that it looks like her stupid actions, and they're a monumentally stupid woman, right? Her stupid actions are going to lead to actually, for the third time, the collapse of any dream that Wizards had of having a virtual tabletop that actually succeeds economically. Then that's where they're going to just lose their nuts. And they're just going to go crazy, right? It's going to be beautiful. So do that, right? And also, don't buy their books. Buy other people's books, the OSR's books. Don't buy Paizo's books either. They're full of wokeness. Buy stuff that is just about gaming, like my games, like Sword and Caravan, The Invisible College. Old School Companion Volume 2. These are medieval authentic adventures. You have, 26? 24? I forget now. It's been so long. 26 adventures. All of them set based on, real medieval history or myth, but, with lots of magic and monsters and lots of very cool stuff. Everybody's been getting some great reviews. And so it's like a whole campaign book, if you wanted, for medieval authentic adventuring. And check out all my other stuff too. Lion and Dragon, Star Adventure, Arrows of Indra, the RPG Pundit Presents PDF series. You can pick up any of those for 99 cents to $4.99. It's like you're getting me a coffee, but you're getting something in return. So this is all a great way to support me, but it's all stuff that you'll really be able to use in your gaming, okay? And it is fully compatible, okay? So you know what I mean, right? It is OSR compatible. So check all that out. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Share this video. It's always really helpful. I'm sure that a lot of people shared my last video. That was part of why it got all those views. So I really appreciate that. And, spread the word. That's everything today. Currently smoking. This is a Peterson oversized poker. It's so huge it barely fits. I love it. See you guys. Oh, one more thing. Check out tomorrow. We have Inappropriate Characters, 7:30 p.m., guest starring The Red Room, okay? And we're probably going to be talking more about this, but also about other stuff, the Wretchedverse and all kinds of other things. Tomorrow, Inappropriate Characters on the other channel. I'll send a note about it later. Take care.